Right around the time he died, my father said to me, Jackie, you can't outrun your fate, but you sure as hell gotta try. I didn't really know what he meant back then. See, there was something inside me. Something terrible, waiting to get out. And when it did, it made me watch the only thing I ever cared about. Get her brains blown out right in front of me. Then it gave me the power to make things right. The kind of stuff you only see in your worst nightmares. The killing only made it stronger, harder to control. Eventually, I found a way to bury it.
Hey everyone, it's Mr. Mario here, and I am bringing you my first game review on this channel. Very excited about it, and it is for a wonderful game called The Darkness 2. Now, it came out a few days ago, and this is one of those games that I was completely blown away with. One, it completely snuck up on me, because I was not expecting it to come out. Like, I knew it was coming out, but it was one of those things where there was so much stuff going on that I didn't know. And at the same time, it just blew me away because it was so epic and awesome. Now we'll get into that, but first, if you don't already know, the original Darkness game came out in 2007 on the PS3, 360, and PC, and this game is one of my all-time favorite games. It's actually my second all-time favorite game. Alright? Now, you start off in this game as Jackie Estacado. He's 21 years old, this is his 21st birthday, and he ends up almost getting killed a few times. What happens is he has this being inside of him that's as old as time, called the Darkness, and it's this thing that has tentacles and all, and they come out of him and they start attacking everything. He loses the love of his life, he goes to hell twice. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it's a game you should play because it's awesome. Now we're getting into the Darkness 2. This picks up a few years after the Darkness 1. If you beat the game, you'll know what I'm talking about if you can remember the ending, but after what happens, he ends up harnessing the darkness, so for these next few years, he has not had the darkness to deal with so much, even though it's been at the back of his head this whole time, just bugging him, begging to come out. He has not let it out. Right now, Jackie is doing pretty well for himself. He has a huge mansion, he has his Aunt Sarah living with him, he's got all of his goons around him, surrounding him and all that. He is good to go. What happens at the beginning is that he gets attacked by a group called the Brotherhood, and then that's when he lets the darkness out, because he's badly wounded and all that, so he needs to recover, and he needs to save himself. Pretty much after this attack, you find out that the Brotherhood is wanting to take back the darkness from you, because they think it belongs to them, so you're going on this whole joyride. But this whole time, the darkness is also tricking you, so you have to be careful. But, for example, you're going to be going through the game, and you'll see Jenny at some places, and then there's other places where you're going to wake up in an asylum, and you don't know what's going on, and it's crazy. You have to play it if you're interested in it. But let's get on to the gameplay. Now, the first thing I noticed in the gameplay was the shooting system was completely redone on here. If you're playing this, first thing you'll think of is Call of Duty. Now, I'm okay with the Call of Duty shooting system. I think they executed it wonderfully in here, but some people might be against it. The leveling system for the darkness is very nice on here as well. You can pick what exactly you want to level up. There's different tiers and all that, and there's 4 different sections for the darkness which you can level up, which all those will help you out in many different ways. The executions never get boring. I was running through this game doing executions the whole time. None of them got boring. You do kind of do the same ones over time, but it just does not bore you. It's really fun to do. The difficulty level I felt was okay. Now, the most basic difficulty level, which is what I was playing on just because I wanted the story, you can burn through pretty easily. While as if you're a more experienced player, you can take on the Dawn, and that'll be a lot harder for you. So, there's pretty much a difficulty level for everyone in this game. While as on the first game it felt like there were some parts that were overly hard compared to others. So they kind of rounded out the difficulty. Now on to the graphics. This is one of the first things I noticed about the game, and I honestly thought that my system or my TV was going out. Because the first Darkness came out in 2007. Now we're in 2012 where graphics should be much better. However, the original Darkness was made to look more realistic, which I liked that due to the fact that it kind of immersed you in the world. And now some of you might be making fun of me, but I did kind of have an emotional attachment to this game. Now you might be saying, oh Mario, that's stupid, it's a game. But just play the first Darkness and see what happens. What I didn't like about the Darkness 2 is that, I mean, sure, the graphics look good, but they're cartoony. They're like partially cell shaded or something, I don't know. But I just would have much rather taken a realistic feel on this one. I was expecting the graphics to look a lot better as well. That was my disappointment on here. Probably the biggest one for me at least. But it's just, I felt like with those cartoony graphics, you couldn't get into the game and you couldn't at least immerse yourself in the story as much as you could in the first game. There were some parts in the first game, I'm gonna be honest, I was almost in tears. But in the second game, I did not feel any type of emotional attachment. That might be, I don't know, maybe because I grew up almost 4 or 5 years, but at the same time, I felt like it just would have been a much better game if they took the realistic graphic approach on it. The sound on here, if I need to include anything, the sound is great, seemed on point to me. All the executions are all, you know, all that stuff. They're all going to be great. You don't have to worry about that. The flesh sounds awesome. On to the storyline. What I liked about it is that it kept you going. There was not one point in the game where I got bored, and the whole time I wanted to find out what was happening next. And there's all these twists and turns in there, but you're constantly guessing what's going on. That's what I liked about it. It was great. I liked the writing on it too. Now, it wasn't the most original, don't get me wrong, and this is also at the same time coming from a person who has no expertise or knowledge of the Darkness comics or anything. So don't get me wrong on that. There might be other things that are different on here, but I thought it was good. I liked it. The only complaint I might have, and I'm not even sure if this is completely a complaint, is that it seemed like the pacing was a bit fast at some times. But besides that, I really liked it. Only thing also, in addition to that, was that this could probably be because Jackie, you know, he's back with the Darkness and he's going through all this stuff with the Ginny, but I don't know, I didn't really feel bad for him. It's like the first game, he loses Ginny and he's losing everyone, everyone's out to get him, and you feel bad for him. But the second game, I don't know, he's kind of a dick. It's like, not so much of a dick that you want him dead, but it's like, you know, you're not going to feel sorry for him. Now, in addition to the storyline, you also have a separate portion called Vendettas. Vendettas has 2 modes. You can either go online and co-op with 3 other of your friends, or you can stay offline and play by yourself. I was playing by myself, however, I was a little bit disappointed that it did not have any split screen or system link. I was slightly disappointed on that. What was cool about this was that it's a lot like Left 4 Dead. If you take Left 4 Dead and throw in the Darkness powers for your characters, that's pretty much what Vendettas is. And in addition to that, Vendettas is the side story. Vendettas is what's going on in the Darkness 2, except there's all these little side missions that are mentioned in the Darkness 2, like the main storyline that you don't do, and these are pretty much those side missions. So you're having 4 of your lackeys go out and do these things. This does add another few hours of gameplay, which is always welcome. In addition to that, since it's co-op, you're going to have more replay value in Vendettas, which is pretty cool. Now, I will be honest, I did not play the multiplayer on this game. I didn't play the multiplayer on the first Darkness either, just because both of these games, to me, feel like games that don't really need multiplayer. The first Darkness especially, it sold me completely on the story, but I did hear that the Darkness had very laggy multiplayer. Now, this one, at one point, I probably will try the multiplayer just because I want to see how it is. But I have not given it a try yet. I've only played solo. In addition to this, there's also something called Hit List, which I really haven't looked into too much. I'm guessing it's just a bunch of hits due to the title, but I have not had time to play that yet. Coming to the end of this, any criticisms I have? One, it was a pretty short game, shorter than the first one. It took me, I don't know, less than 5 hours to beat it. and I've been playing it on and off this week. Another thing, I mentioned it before, it went from the realistic approach in 2007 to 2012 where they went with the cartoony approach on the graphics, which I don't know why, but for some reason they did. I was reading something that the developers said, and they were saying that they were, I don't know, trying to focus more on the story and all that, or they were trying to focus on something. It didn't really make that much sense to me, just because I felt like when it was more realistic, I focused on the story more. The only thing was, I still paid attention to the story, but I wasn't as immersed in it as I would have been with realistic graphics. I personally liked the shooting system on here. Others might not, due to the fact that it is very Call of Duty-esque. But I'm okay with Call of Duty. I thought the shooting style was great. Some people have also criticized this game for being a bit too easy right at the beginning, but you have to realize, sticking to the story, that Jackie is not new to the darkness. He's had it locked up for a few years, but I mean, the thing is in there, he knows how to control it. In addition to that, it is pissed off, okay? So it's going to be pretty angry, and it's going to be attacking everything in sight, and it will be pretty easy. So that was my take, at least, on the easiness. I could understand why it would be easy, but that's what I thought, if that makes any sense. Final verdict, I loved the game. Now, I did have my criticisms on it, don't get me wrong, but this is not a game that you should just not play. If you liked the first Darkness, you should definitely play this one. I really liked it. I was extremely surprised, and I probably will be beating it a few more times. Now, I will be honest, I wanted to give this game a 9 out of 10, but the criticisms on it, just some of them, especially just the graphics, were bugging me, to be honest, and I know I kind of sound like a snob, I'm sorry, but that was bringing it down to an 8, so I just reconciled, and I'm throwing it in the middle. The Darkness 2, from me, gets an 8.5 out of 10. What does that mean for you guys? If you have not played the first Darkness, I recommend checking this out. You should probably check out the first game due to the fact that this game does sum it up at the beginning, but you're dealing with crackhead Johnny, and his summary isn't really that good. If you've played the first Darkness already, you have absolutely no reason to skip out on this one. Unless you just completely despise the first Darkness and didn't like it at all, then I could kind of understand. Even though I don't really understand because I thought it was a great game. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario. Thank you for watching my review. Y'all have fun.